Good morning from a snowy morning this so far in Boston. The temperature has still been cold and icy and snowy for the past couple weeks, actually, since I've come back from Crete. It's just been nonstop freezing and snow and ice. There have been a couple times where the ice has melted, but it just snowed back again today, this morning. And instead of sharing some of the things that are about to come for me in the next week, I wanted to dedicate this video specifically on the recent publishing of a brand new book that I've made. It's called Left to Die, and it talks about life sentences in the US, its history, its usage, and arguments for and against, with the goal of trying to persuade an American audience that life sentences are not really an appropriate form of accountability, because research doesn't really show that harsher, lengthier sentences on people who commit certain crimes is actually a good deterrent for crimes in itself or prevents crime. Out of all the books I've made, this is probably the most academically heavy because it involves a lot of research, a lot of sources, and I think in terms of volumes and pages, it almost hits 300 pages, so it's quite a very dense book to read. I've began the book actually right after my previous book, which is Nationalism's Death. Right after I published that book, I immediately began to write this book, and it took about 5-6 months-ish or so, because I published a little bit by little every day, and I just got the title pages done this past weekend. So this book, it really is personal to me because I grew up in a family that, especially from my father's side, that had a lot of issues with violence and crime, and it's a book that really made me wonder, why is it that people who commit crimes typically go to prison, and if they repeat multiple crimes, or no matter how violent it is, they end up spending the rest of their life behind bars, which might provide some emotional conviction and emotional comfort for the victims of the crimes. But in the long run, it really doesn't seem to give any sort of justice. It really just creates this cycle and this system of fear and distrust, and also just this continuous torture where there is no method for rehabilitation or reintegration back into society. And what I've considered in terms of advocating for is something that's really consistent with data and the research. And sometimes it can be very hard, specifically given the emotional subject of life sentences and whether they should or should not be part of America's criminal justice system. And my hope is that those critics who are very critical of this can at least take a look at the book and kind of review it and make their own conclusions. The goal is to at least influence those in the government to try to make lives better, not just for people who are crime victims, but also people in the justice system, and provide ways of preventing crime through methods of reintegration instead of this ulterior death penalty where you're just basically stuck in prison for the rest of your life and there's no chance for you at all. You're basically a wasted piece of sack. I hope the U.S. justice system really goes in a more positive direction than the way it currently is, especially under the current government, where it seems like crime and increasing punishment and emotional vengeance is just taking over without any reasoning or research to back it up. And it's very disappointing. So I hope this book at least gives some type of change to that. It's officially up on the Barnes & Noble website, and if you want to, you're more than welcome to get a copy of it. I'll put a link in the description of the video in case you're interested in checking it out. That's all I want to share. Many thanks, and cheers.